Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeremiah. I'm going to be your host tonight. Listen, got a good one for you tonight. I don't have much time, so we're just going to get right into this. I want to talk to you about something tonight that I think a lot of dads and moms are quietly struggling with, and that is interparental conflict and when ego takes over. Okay, and before we're done, I'm going to tell you about how it happened, what happened, and how it completely changed how I look at things. All right. I'm Jeremiah. I'm a husband, father, recovering addict, and alcoholic, and mostly just a guy trying to be a little bit better than yesterday and share my story with others in hopes that they don't feel so alone. Around here, honesty about fatherhood, marriage, recovery, mental health, relationships, and stuff most of us were never taught how to handle. I like to talk about it openly here. Okay. Um, Tonight we're talking about conflict, okay, with your spouse, with your partner, even with your co parent. Now, I want to tell you about what happened. Um, my wife and I had a disagreement. I didn't agree with how she handled the parenting skill. Okay. And rather than put it in my pocket, wait till later and bring it up, I challenged her authority in front of the children. I know. I got boisterous, I got loud, I got defiant, and then I had to be right. It wasn't just enough. Like I knew it. I knew that as soon as it flew out of my mouth, I knew that I had disrespected my wife. Okay. I knew that what I should have done at that point to stop the train from coming down the mountain. And it wasn't because it was all because of ego. At that point, I couldn't be not right. I had to be right. I had to be at the driver's seat. I had to be in control. I just had to be right, and I knew it. I think that I think a lot of people understand this, that when you have to be right, you actually understand when you want to stop. You know what you're supposed to say, and it's almost, to me, it was like it tasted bad in my mouth to say it. It's like it tasted terrible for me to come out and say what it was and own my my mistake. So what I could have done is I could have stopped it and been like, because as soon as I said it, I knew it. As soon as I said, I knew what I did wrong, and I couldn't hear that I had disrespected her. I couldn't hear that. I didn't want to hear that. It was tough for me to understand where I could have gone better in the moment, and this is where I talk about a lot, that moment. Um, and like maybe even if I disagreed, what I should have done is I should have put it in my pocket, brought it up later together when we had an opportunity to speak with each other, reflect on our day, go around it that way. But instead, I opened the book up in front of everybody. And I know that that erodes trust. And I know that one of the biggest things that that does is it actually puts a split between the children. Relevant, a recent meta-analysis involving 23,000 children across 49 samples found a fairly substantial association between intraparental conflict and children feeling caught between their parents. That's something that I really don't want. I don't want my children to be thinking that they're between me and my wife, or that they're between my wife and myself. I want my children to feel like they're being parented together. Okay. Now I know I'm gonna fall short of that. You know what I mean? But I don't want that whole dad says one thing and there's inconsistencies, and mom says something else. The kid realizes there's daylight between us, that we're not a solid unit. And I don't want that to happen. I want them to understand that we are in line, that we have the same goals, that we want to do things the same way. And it brings consistency. And that's important for children because that helps them with their structure. Okay, structure is a big thing to me in my parenting journey. I impress that upon a lot of people. Structure is very important. And the next big part of this is my ego. When my ego stepped in, where I could have done better at this one. Ego, to me, I have a problem with ego. I got a big problem with ego. I struggle with it a lot because, like I said, when I'm right, when I feel like I'm right, I'm right. Even if I'm wrong, I want to be right. I've got to be right. I can't step back. I can't look at myself. I can't. My ego has taken over completely, and I'm continuing the argument long after I realized I could have been wrong simply because admitting it felt worse than continuing the fight. You know what I mean? Like it just felt worse that I could. I don't want to say bury the hatchet. Bury the hatchet's too much of a just getting through it, just getting over it. You know what I mean? It's too much of that. I To navigate the situation, I could have just been step back, been like, you're right. Instead, I was argumentative. I was just a shitty human being. You know, there's this thing called the spillover hypothesis, and it's conflict between parents can spill over into how you parent. One meta-analysis examined 138 effective sizes across 39 studies and found a moderate overall association between interparental conflict and parenting behavior. Harsh discipline and parental acceptance are among the parenting behaviors most affected. So basically, what it is it's keeping conflict behind doors. Now, I worked in the restaurant industry, and there was a big thing that I prided myself on, that was be able to keep the chaos in the back of the house. Didn't matter how crazy a Friday night was. Didn't matter how unchained it was and how many people we were serving. The chaos had to stay in the back of the house. And if I equate that to what my marriage is, the same thing has to happen. The same thing has to happen. The chaos has to stay in the back of the house. Later on, my wife and I are going to bed. I could have talked to her and said something along the lines of, I didn't really agree with what you did earlier. I didn't agree. That wouldn't have been the way I would have done it. And see if we can come up with a plan to better navigate that in the future, that we can be on the same page, that we can parent with consistency. Because I know that life happens. You know what I mean? I know that things happen. I know there's stressors. At the time, it was a very high stress environment. The kids were being disrespectful. It turned into me being disrespectful. And things just went sour really quick. And again, once my ego was in control, there was no turning back. Now, there's 4 steps to this not in front of the kids process. Okay. Don't immediately correct your spouse. Okay. Unless somebody's unsafe or there's a risk of life and death, give yourself that minute. Okay. Ask yourself next, does this need fixing right now? Does it need fixing right now? And be honest about it. Ask yourself, does it need fixing right now? Because you're going to have that answer. You are absolutely going to have that answer. If that needs fixed right now, you're going to know when you can and when you can't. Next step, talk privately. Something as simple, I would handle that differently. Can we talk about it? That opens the door to a conversation. Conversation is important when it comes to parenting because it's a two-way street. You can listen and you can talk. When your spouse tells you how your behavior affected them, stop arguing your intent. That's huge. I didn't mean to disrespect you. Does not answer, I felt disrespected. Okay, what you meant and what happens and how it comes across are two totally different things. There's another piece I'd absolutely include: repair in front of the kids. They witness dad undermine mom. There's a value in letting them witness dad correct himself too. Kids don't need parents who never disagree. Seeing adults disagree constructively and repair conflict can actually model healthy conflict resolution, showing them how we get through this, including them in the reflection. Actually, my wife and I sat down with our kids and we talked about it. This morning, we talked about what dad could have done better. Something as simple as dad earlier disagreed with mom in front of you, and I shouldn't have handled it that way. Okay. And then when I was wrong, I should have just admitted that I was wrong, admitted to it, and figured out a way through it together. I was disrespectful to her and I have apologized to her. Now that's important too. Extending the fact that you have apologized and you state the infraction right there at the end in plain view. This is where I went wrong, and I'm sorry about that. Now, the sorry doesn't work well if there's not action that follows it. So you want to make sure that there's action that follows it, and you do your best to keep those let's say disrespectful moments to the curb. Okay. Now, that being said, what I realized is my ego has more control over me than what I want to admit, than what I let on, I guess. I screwed it up, and then I screwed it up even more when I couldn't be wrong. And that's an important thing to realize. I was still struggling with it because I don't want my ego to be what's in control. And it really busted me up to know that it was, and know that it still had that much control over me, because I like to fight my ego. Now, ego can do big things. Ego can do a lot of great things. Ego can get you places. With ego comes anger. With ego comes other things. And anger gets things done. You know what I mean? So, um, put the ego away, man. If you're wrong and you know you're wrong, just cop it, man. Just cop it out and just be like, you know what? You're right. I apologize. I shouldn't have done this, or I should have done it different. I should have done it this way. I'll work harder to do that in the future. Just own the shit, man, because if you don't, it's going to erode things. And when it erodes things, you can't get it back. It's going to take a long time if you do. All right. So, next part of my journey, getting a handle on my ego. All right, guys. That's all I had tonight. Just a little reflection on the day. I'm going to try and get back on later, do a little more. I'm going to chat about this again. Hopefully, we can have a conversation about it. I don't see any comments, and I don't even see any viewers in here right now. So we will see what we can get later. All right. Stay tuned tonight. My name is Jeremiah. I hope something helped you out of this. If it didn't, take what you want, leave the rest. Again, you're not alone, guys. A lot of us out there, a lot of us dealing with the same stuff you are. Speak up.